That red Honda Civic SI. 504 reaction for Chang. Not bad. What can he turn it into? He turns it into a 3.8 second improvement. Jeez. 46.581 for Chang. And just like I thought, he is making his way through the class. Was in 10th and is now in 8th place in STC. Street turning fat back out on course. Andy Hollis on the left, Todd Freeman on the right. Freeman with a 600 reaction, Andy with a 612. Pretty equal. Oh, Freeman getting squirrely at the finish. That is not going to help him. Almost parked it, but he keeps it in line. Freeman with a 49.380, no help. Andy with a 47.335, that's no help for him either. I think it's gotten a little bit windy out there, so that's really hurting his horsepower gains in that long stretch in the backside. Andrew Elias and Brian Harmer next in. Brian in that 2005 Toyota Crayola, and Elias in the Ford Buckeye. Looks like Andrew will be back first. He is 48.762, no help, slowed down by half a second. Harmer, no help for him, 49.359. He also slows down by half a second. Good reaction time for Brian, though, 5.74. Elias, a 6.77 reaction in that Ford Focus. If you haven't had a chance, they're still serving it in the white trailer, shortstop burgers. I had myself a Philly out there. That was fantastic. Mention this announcement, you get a free bag of chips. Can't beat that. Go see the guys all the way from Colorado Springs, Colorado, in the white trailer, shortstop burgers. That's Jason Frank and Ken Trindle. Jason, 45, double 2. 607 reaction for Jason. Kinch, a 45.248. No help for either on a 570 reaction for Kinch. Leader is still Rendell, Frank, and then Wong. Wong next to finish on the right, back first with a 45.3. Picks up almost a full tenth of a second. Wayne Atkins, a 45.395, slows down by 0.2. And Jeff Wong now 50 thousandths of a second behind Jason and Frank, and then another 0.4 to catch Kinch. Todd Milstead and Richard Greenwald. Richard on the right in the whites. Milstead on the left in the red. And we've got Todd back first on the left of 46.567. Picks up 1.2 seconds. Very nicely done. That had been one of the most annoying sounds ever. That is what you call a Toyota Corolla with out a muffler. Thanks for that, Brian. Anyhow, Richard Greenwald, a 46.723 and a 5.15 reaction for him. He moves himself into 9th place, just ahead of Todd Milstead. Chang Ho Kim down to the finish line. It's a 4.31, very early for Chang. And a 46.952 for him. It wouldn't have been an improvement either way, despite even the red light there. Todd Freeman, another red light. These street touring guys really flirt with the starting gun. Todd Freeman with a 4.53 red light. He'll be next in, along with Andy Hollis. Andy with a 5.61 reaction time. But a 24-second run for Andy? I don't know about that one. That one doesn't quite seem right to me. He must have chopped off the cords or something happened with the lights. It is kind of windy out here, so we might have some debris tripping these final lights here. Let's see, Brian Harmer and Andrew Elias. Let's see if that big burnout from Brian Harmer actually paid off or not. 6.02 reaction for Brian. So a good reaction for Brian on that big smoky burnout. No help. 48.729 for him. Andrew Elias, 48.860 with a 6.67 reaction. And Andrew picks up about a tenth of a second. Andrew sitting in the 4th place position. Wind really has kicked up around here. It's got to be hurting all these Honda Civics as they make their way along that long stretch. You know, they're probably putting in about 90, 92 horsepower or so. With this wind, it's really knocked down to about 70 or so. Ken Trindle and Jason Frank each carrying a cone. It would have been their fastest runs, both of them by 38 thousandths of a second. Well, okay, Jason only had a 36 thousandths of a second improvement, but it's all dirty. 44.474 for Kinch, plus 1 on a 5.17 reaction. Jason, a 45.317, also plus 1 on a 6.21 reaction time. The ST guys pushing the lights one more time. Jeff Wong, a 4.39. Jeff Wong with a 4.39 red light to Wayne Atkins, 5.57. And just like that, another red light. This time, Richard Grunenwald in the right Honda Civic, a 3. Yeah, it's a little. Todd Milstead on the right-hand side. He is driving the red Honda Civic SI with a 533 reaction, so he's a clean start. Wayne Atkins through on the right-hand side with a 45.488, no help, slowed down 71 thousandths. And that was no help for Grunenwald. And my gosh, another red light start on the left side. That is 3 in a row. This time it belongs to Chang Ho Kim. 468 red eye for Chang. So that's not going to matter much. Meanwhile, we got Milstead with a 46.634 plus 1. Would have been a 0.2 of a second improvement if it not for the cone. Richard Grunenwald, raw time, 46.016, but a red light start. Andy Hollis and Todd Freeman leaving the starts. Andy with a 534. Not a bad start for Mr. Hollis. Freeman a 638. Quick but safe. Raw time in for Chang Ho Kim. 46.001 plus 1. So we had a red light, and then there was a dirty plus 1. And you take those penalties away, it would have been a 0.6 of a second improvement for him. Unfortunately, you know, he cheated and took off early and started hitting cones. Andrew Elias and Brian Harmer will be next through. Actually, I take that back. It's Andy and Todd Freeman next through. I keep forgetting about them because those cars are just blindingly fast. I never see them. Andy Hollis picks up 7 full thousandths of a second, 46.934. For the 534 reaction for Andy. Todd Freeman with a 48.375. That is his quickest run. Actually, no, it's not. He slowed down by 10th too. I take that back. So Andy stretches his lead out to a 25-second lead. Oh, yeah, that's not right either, so I haven't taken care of that 24-second run yet. Everything unofficial in street touring F right now. This is Andrew Elias and Brian Harmer. Brian picking up 2 cones, slowed down with a 48.907. Andrew Elias, that's an improvement of 48.070. And Andrew Elias now moving into second place. He is splitting the Hollis clan. We'll see what Ann has to say about that. She's the second driver as soon as Andy comes through. Jason Frank and Ken Schwindel, no help for either. Jason 45.0, slowed down by 0.3. Kinch slowed down by 1/10 with a 45.2. Good starts though, 5:30 for Kinch. Reaction time, Jason had 5:28, so they were pretty much neck and neck, leaving the lines, separated by 2 thousandths of a second. Wayne Atkins and Jeff Wong, Wayne being given the DNF flag now. 7:09 reaction for Wayne, so not the best reaction. 45.121 raw time for Wayne, but a DNF run. Jeff Wong, meanwhile, picks up 0.2 of a 44. And that'll move Jeff into second spot. We got Kinch in the lead, Jeff in second, Jason Frank dropped down to third place by about 0.17, separating Jason from Jeff. Todd Milstead, he's also getting another DNF on the left side course, a 4:29 red light regardless. Richard Grunenwald at 46.772, it's a plus 1 on a 7:92 reaction time. And then Chang Ho Kim, we're going to call him the king of the red lights. Another 484 red lights for Fun Honda. Somehow something tells me that it's not so fun Hondas today with all these red lights that he's been getting. 484 this time around. Raw time though, 46.028. Would have been a half a second pickup, but again, he's cheating. He's taking off early. Leaving the start, that's Brian Harmer on the left, Andrew Elias on the right in the Focus. Corolla versus Focus, all up against the Mazda 2. Andy Hollis will be next in on the right-hand side course, along with Todd Freeman. Looks like Andy's got the lead. I can't tell if he's on the gas or he's lifting or not to the finish lights. It's just that slow. 47.894, and that is no help for him. Andy is standing on his first 2 runs. He pulled out 2 46s out of the hat and has pretty much just rested on his laurels since then. Todd Freeman, meanwhile, 48.293. And like I said, Todd is, I can't tell he's putting a dent in there. They haven't taken away a 24-second run yet from Andy. He'll be seeing a rerun on the right-hand side here, I'm sure. Brian Harmer and Andrew Elias. Andrew, 48.149, picks up 0.7 of a second. And Elias is in the second place, pushing Freeman down to third. Brian Harmer, 48.792 for him. And let's see here, 48.792 on the left. That was no help. Slowed down by a couple of hundredths of a second. Meanwhile, Andrew Hahn and Mike Holtinger, second drivers in STS. Hahn picks up 0.7 of a second, 44.629 for Hahn. Mike Holtinger, 46.260, picks up half a second himself. Holtinger is into 9th place, and Hahn still in 3rd, but only 0.2 behind O'Gorman, and another 1/10 up to Baker. He's got 3 more runs to go as a second driver. Snyder and Mollenauer. Mike Snyder on the left, Mollenauer on the right. Mollenauer 46.759, 8:32 reaction. Picks up half a second. Mike Snyder picks up a second and a half. 45.556 for Mike. And that'll move Mike into the 7th position, just behind Neil Bellamy by about 0.6. Another red light start for Michael Eckert as the RT clan gets out on course. It's +1, plus a 493 red light for Eckert. Lance Keeley at a 659 in the Genesis. In the finish, STS second driver is Bob Neff. 46.495 for Bob on a 559 reaction. 47.3 for Baruder on an 880. Eckert and Keeley will be next through. Again, the RT class. These are stock classed cars on street tires. Oh yeah, nice little pimp out from Keeley into the finish. I'm sure they caught that on camera. Keeley rotating that rear end picks up a 1.5 to the 47.549 for Lance. Eckert, meanwhile, had a 46.582. Would have been about a 0.4 of a second improvement, but it's a red light and it's a +1. No help for Eckert. If you guys get a chance, go stop by SPS Solo Performance Specialties. They are out here in the first row of the paddock area. They've got all of your clothing wear for this event as well as the past. They've got a closeout box there, trying to get rid of some inventory for $5 for t-shirts and such. Pretty nice deal there. Go see Brian and the gang. Robert Bailey on the right-hand side, 49.385 for Bob on the 624 reaction. Ambrose Funk picks up a cone, 45.3. Again, but it's +1 for Funk on a 564 reaction time. Bailey is sticking in the 5th position. Funk sitting in 4th place. Now we've got Joseph Sim and Carl Kierkegaard. Kierkegaard on the right, no help for him, 48.3 on a 787. Sim on the left with 46.6, and it's +1 on a 655 reaction time. Doing the solo drive on the left-hand side of that D-Stock WRX, that's Chris Kaiser. 9:41 reaction for him. A little bit sleepy after that lunch. Must have had a turkey sandwich since he's got a little bit of tryptophan sleeping going on. 0.941 for Chris, that WRX. His raw time, though, will translate to a 48.1. Despite falling asleep with the lights, he managed to pick up about 0.2 of a second. And Kaiser in the 9th position, now less than 0.2 behind Stephen Hoy for that 8th position in the 10-car RT class. Mike Holtinger and Andrew Hahn. Let's see if Andrew can catch the leaders at STS. He's next in on the right-hand side course. Working the Honda CRX, Andrew Hahn. A 45.397, no help for Andrew. Mike, meanwhile, would have picked up 0.8 of a second, but it's +1 with a 46.158. 46.158 for Mike. Would have been a nice improvement for him, but cones count. Mollenauer and Snyder out on course. Mike is already carrying a cone. Mollenauer on the left side in the Mazda Miata. The pair of equal starts, a 6:59 for Ken, 6:44 for Mike. Raw time for Snyder, 46.163, would have been a 0.3 of a second improvement. Ken slows down by 0.3 with a 46.938. Back to RT, Lance Keeley and Michael Eckert leaving the start. Keeley in the left in that G-Stock Hyundai Genesis, a 7:41 reaction time for him. Michael Eckert, meanwhile, had a 6:86 reaction to E-Stock WRX. This is Bob Neff and Larry Baruder. Larry in the red CRX SI, and Bob Neff. Bob picks up 3.9 seconds. He is leapfrogging into 10th place with a 46.465. Larry Baruder at 47.598, and oh my goodness, that late cone car, I hate those for Bob. So Bob does pick up 1 cone. It's still a 1.9 second improvement for Bob, but that knocks him probably down after 11 positions up 10th. Into RT. No help for Michael Eckert, 47.145, but a 0.3 of a second improvement for Keeley with a 47.1. And looks like Keeley has closed the gap on Eckert to about 0.281, less than 0.3 of a second, separating Eckert from Keeley. That is Ambrose Fung and Bob Bailey. Fung in the S2000, a 45.933, 0.9 of a second improvement for Ambrose. Very nicely done. Moves himself into third place now in the RT class. Bailey a 48.306, and looks like Bob is going to stay in fifth place, just 0.6 of a second out of the trophies. We got 10 cars in the RT class, 4 available trophy spots. This is Carl. Improvement for Kierkegaard, 47.336 for Carl. And Carl now sitting in fifth place, about 0.2 of a second out of the trophies. Matt Don kind of in trouble losing that trophy spot, but he's a second driver. He'll have his chance at his afternoon runs in about 15 minutes or so. Red light run for Chris Kaiser, a 4:15 jump for Chris. Raw time of 47.207. Looks like the wind may have died down just a hair or so. The sun is shining. The clouds are kind of scattered, but they seem to be going away. It looks like nothing but sunny skies for the rest of the afternoon. Expect the times to drop. Andrew Hahn, Mike Holdinger, no help for either of them. Hahn with a 44.660. Mike with a 46.449. They'll have to leave it to the last two runs here. They have any chance of catching Ian Baker or Tom O'Gorman. Those guys down to 89.3s combined, about a 10th of a second separating them. Hahn only 2.5 behind O'Gorman. He's got 2 more runs to do it. Mike Snyder into the finish, 45.723, no help for him. 7:05 reaction time for Snyder. Molnauer, 46.244. And Molnauer picks up half a second on a 7:72 reaction time. Larry Maruder. Wow, Larry must have also had some of that turkey sandwich on a 1.3 second reaction time. That's gotta hurt. Sure enough, no help, 48.115. But Bob finds 0.4 of a second. Neff with a 46.061. And another late cone call for Bob. So you're apparently getting these cones late in your run, Bob. That would have been a 0.4 of a second improvement for you, but unfortunately that cone takes it away. Next through, Eckerts and Keeley, a pair of 6 reaction times, 6:02 for Michael and a 6:22 for Lance. And it turns into some good. 0.2 of a second pickup for Eckert with a 46.739. Lance Keeley picks up about a 1/10 and a half on a 47.408. And so now Lance Keeley, he was trying to catch Eckert. Eckert stretches it out a little bit more, about 0.4 of a second, separating Eckert from Keeley. And then Funk only about 0.4 of a second behind Keeley in that third position. Let's see if Funk can do anything about it. He picks up 0.126. He is kind of carving away at Lance Keeley's gap. That's a 45.7 for Ambrose. And then Bob Bailey, no help for him, 48.8, and it's a +1 reaction time for Ambrose, 5:69. Bob at a 6.362, and Molnauer sitting in the 11th spot, about 44 thousandths behind John Mensch for that top 10 position. Bob Neff and Larry Baruder. Oh wow, Larry Baruder really made up that reaction. He went from a 1.3 to a 0.512, and that turns into a 54 thousandth second improvement, a 47.5 for Larry. Bob Neff, a 5:09 reaction for Bob. Not bad, Bob, in your old age, 46.3. Still showing that he still has reactions. 46.3 for Bob. And that's going to keep him in the 12th spot, less than 0.2 behind Molnauer. Back to RT, Lance Keeley, Michael Eckerts. No help for either of them. Keeley at 47.4 slows down 0.2. Eckert slows down to 47.4. Reaction time for Eckert 7:47 to Lance Keeley 6:04. On course, Carl Kierkegaard, Joseph Sim. Kierkegaard has 6:75 reaction time. Joseph Sim with a 5:50. Okay, Ambrose Fung finds 0.2 of a second, 45.753, and he is sitting in third spot, just over a 1/10 of a second behind Keeley, that RT class running the V-Stock packs. Bailey a 48.318 on a 577 reaction time. Jay Yost, Chris Kaiser left the light, 674 for Jay and a 1.0 for Chris. In the finish line's Crook Guard, 47.4, no help. But Joseph Sim finds 0.6 of a second with a 46.301 on a very quick 550 reaction time for Joseph. That'll put Joseph sixth spot behind Kierkegaard, and they're battling Matt Don for that fourth trophy spot. Only about 0.3 of a second combined behind Matt. 4 trophy spots in the road tire class. Jay Yost and Chris Kaiser now through. Yost is back first on the left with a 46.819. No help for him, slowed down by about a 10th. Chris Kaiser picks up half a second, 47.888. And that moves him into 8th place, less than half a second behind Bailey. Looks like he's done for the afternoon. He will have Sunday runs to see if he can catch Bob Bailey. Tune in tomorrow morning. Ryan Stone, the solo run, 45.415. He is second driver who's running with Jason Frank in that black and orange Honda Civic. That 45.5 was on a 5:18 reaction time, and Stone is now sitting less than half behind Jason Frank. Chris Cargill also running the solo run on the right-hand side of the Street Touring Compact. A 5:24 reaction for Chris. Nicely done. 46.069 for Chris. No help, slowed down 0.3 of a second. Second drivers in the STF. This is Ann Hollis and Ryan Miles. Ryan in the Brian Harmer Toyota Crayola and co-driving that 2012 Hollis Mazda 2 mobile. And trying to be as tight as possible to minimize that distance in that Mazda 2. No help for Ann, a 48.6. Ryan Miles also no help, 49.8. Reaction time for Ann is a 6:04. Ryan with a 7:81 on the right-hand side. In the B-stock, leaders out on course, Vivek Goral, who's already working 3 cones. He's on the course, hasn't finished yet, and he's +3 to start. That's what the raw time is. Not there, 44.6, definitely not quicker, slowed down by 7/10, picks up 3 cones, call it a day for Vivek. Jeff Jansen, meanwhile, 44.4, no help for him, slowed down by 0.3 of a second. Then we've got Rayo Silvanoinen and Todd Cochran. Rayo, another one of the Canadian contingent making the drive. He's got a 7:48 reaction time for him, and Cochran a 7:28, so a pair of 7s for Rayo and Todd. Todd's back first in the Silverest 2000, a 44.467 and a 45.653. So Todd Cochran picks up about 0.7 of a second. That'll move him into 3rd place. He is sitting about 0.2 of a second ahead of Ricky Crow, who's been pushed out of the trophies. Larry Hall and Charles Kim will be next through. Kim with a 1.1 second reaction time. Not what he wants to look for. He's co-driving with James Young. 45.273 for Charles. Nice run. 0.7 of a second improvement despite a 1.1 reaction time. Larry Hall, meanwhile, picks up 1.7 seconds on a 46.6 and an 8.90. Larry. And Larry moved himself into 6th place. About 0.6 of a second ahead of Daniel Berge. Brian Stone and Jay Yost. We're back to Street Touring Compact. A good improvement for Jay. Picks up 0.2 of a second with a 45.949 and a 6:48 reaction time. Brian Stone picking up just under 0.1 of a second with a 45.048. 6:13 for Brian and a 6:48 for Jay in the respective reaction times. This is the bye run for Chris Cargill. He's running solo. Couldn't make use of it. It's a 4:18 red light for Chris, and he picks up a cone. No help on raw time. 45.660 for Cargill. Let's see if Ann Hollis can go ahead and carve into some of Andy's lead. Ann actually dropped down into 4th place as she's led a couple of drivers, first drivers through after their afternoon runs. Ryan Miles in the Toyota Corolla getting a better jump at the start, a 6:58 reaction to Ann's 7:07. But Ann does manage to pick up 0.2, 48.805. A 48.8 for Ann keeps her in 4th spot, just 0.3 of a second behind Freeman and Elias. Ryan Miles, 49.462 plus 1. Back to the leaders of B stock. Goel and it's like it's clean. I don't see any plus 1, plus 2, or plus 3s next to this time. 44.345, no help, slows down by 4/10. Jeff Jansen, no help. 43.6, still 2/10 slower. None of the B stock leaders making up any time, leaving the door open for the rest of the class. Looks like Todd Cochran is making use of his afternoon runs. We'll see what Ricky Crow, who's co-driving with Jeff Jansen, can kind of carve into that lead as well, as he's been dropped down to 4th place. This is Cochran and Silvanoinen. Rayo in with a 44.208, would have been a 1-second pickup. It's a 4:35 red lights. Cochran, meanwhile, another 0.3 of a second for Todd. 45.151. He still has quite a ways to catch Goel, though. He's about 1.7 back, but he's still good enough for 3rd place in the class. Charles Kim, Larry Hall. Larry Hall's carrying the cone that red S2000. It's a 1.0 reaction time for Larry, so not the best start for him. He turns into a 46.6 plus 1, would have been 4/10 of a second improvement. Meanwhile, Charles Kim, 34.5. That's a 6.5 second improvement over the morning runs. Nicely done for Charles Kim. And that will put Charles all the way to 4th place. He is now 0.3 of a second ahead of Ricky Crow for that fourth position. Only 3 trophy spots available. This is Brian Stone and Jay Yost, back to Street Touring Compact. Stone in with a 45.401, picks up 14,000 of a second. Yost a 45.951, no help for him. Good reaction time for Stone at 5:27, Jay 6:12. Another red light for this ST guy. This time it belongs to Chris Cargill. 493 red eye for Chris in that black Honda Civic SI. He will turn it into a 45.7. You take away that red light, it really was no improvement. On course is Miles and Hollis. Good reaction times for both of them. Miles had a 561 and with a 590, so they're both in the 5.5 reaction time. But looks like both of them now working a cone. Ann will be plus 1, Ryan's going to be plus 1. So they don't make use of their good lightning starts. They're going to add a cone to a 49.083 for Ryan. And Ann with a 47.7. Could have been a 0.2 of a second improvement for Ann, but that cone takes it away. Okay, let's see if Jansen and Goel can make up some time. I know that Vivek was confident there was quite a bit of time to be had. Can he find it? He can't find it. 43.9, 33,000 slower. Jansen, meanwhile, he does find 2.5 43.883 for Jeff on a 5:35 reaction. And Jeff Jansen now moving up to a full half a second advantage over Vivek Goel for the top spot in B stock. Rayo Silvanoinen and Todd Cochran. Todd moving his way all the way up to 3rd place. Can he move even closer? 44.7, no help for him. Rayo, 45.656, and no help for him. These B-stock guys really not finding the time out here these afternoon runs, with the exception of Cochran. Cochran is taking advantage of it. The rest of the B-stock guys, doors wide open. I take that back. Jeff Jansen did make an improvement, separating him from Vivek by half a second. So we've got Brian Stone and Jay Yost, STC, out on course for their final looks at the course for the afternoon. Larry Hall and Charles Kim, meanwhile. Charles Kim, a 44.009 plus 1, picks up 1.2, but then gives it right back with the cone. 47.551 for Hall, and that is no help for Larry. Stone and Yost. Street touring, no help for either. A 46.5 for Jay, a 45.0 for Brian, no help. 571 reaction for Jay on 648 for Brian. Leaving the start, Ryan Miles and Ann Hollis. A 641 start for Ryan, and with a nice 575. We're watching Chris Cargill into the finish line to the left-hand side. Raw time 45.982, 45.9, no help for Chris. Those of you watching online, give big thanks to quite a few folks who made this thing happen on the Ustream. First and foremost, we've got Randy Chase and Chase Cam. really the one who's laid down the bandwidth for this to allow Ustream to not only post the video of it, but the audio as well. And then we've had Kevin Dietz, who has spent a lot of time and his own money to go ahead and get the cameras set up for this. So you're watching out online. And speaking of watching come through, that's Ryan Miles and Ann Hollis. Ann picks up 1/10 of a second and then gives it right back with a cone, 48.7 plus 1. And then Ryan Miles a 49.9 for him, a 6:41 reaction time. Back to the leaders in B stock, Vivek and Jeff. Vivek on the left, another cone for him. 43.880 plus 1 for Vivek, no help. Jeff Jansen a 43.7, no help for him. Again, these B stock guys not really finding a whole lot of time out here. They're having good reaction times at least. It was a 587 for Vivek and a 551 for Jeff. Cochran, a 507 reaction time. Todd has been one of the ones that has found quite a bit of time out here. The afternoon runs in the B-Stock. He'll be our next finisher on the left-hand side of the Silver S2000. Rayo Silvernoin in the Black S2000 is back third with a 45.485. No help for him. And Todd looks like he's pretty much tapped out for the afternoon. A 46.165 and no help for Todd. Wow. Kevin's telling me that we've got about, 2,000 views, 200 viewers watching us on Ustream, which means they're actually got us as trending now on Ustream, which means, hey, we're making it big time here. They're watching us in Singapore and in London and all over the place. Let me catch up here. Larry Hall of 46.6, Charles Campbell 44.6, and looks like Larry finds about 3/10 of a second. Charles Kim 44.6 on a 590 reaction time. In the finish lines now, George Chong with 48.4, Matt Dunn of 46.9, and Chong sitting in his 10th spot in the RT class. Don, see here, 46.9. That's about a 3/10 of a second improvement for Matt, holding on to that fourth trophy spot. He's got about a half a second to make up to catch Ambrose for that third podium spot in the road tire class. Stephen Hoy now in with a 45.844, 45.8 for Stephen, and that's about a 3/10 of a second improvement for him. About 2,000s behind Kaiser for that 8th trophy spot. He's running the B-Stock S2000 index on the road tire class. Paul calls second, Anthony Savini, leaders in A-Stock. Savini 43.8, no help. Paul calls last 44.3, no help. 688 reaction time for Paul. Anthony, very nicely done, a 531. We've got Lane Borg and Wiggy Grecian out on course. Wiggy on the red lights, 480. So this will not be his quick run. Lane Borg, meanwhile, with a 696 reaction, that yellow Corvette. They're next into your camera. 44.963 picks up 1.1 for Lane Borg. And Lane will move into 5th place, about 3/10 of a second behind Jeff Jacobs. Wiggy Grecian, his raw time 45.203, but a 480 red light. Dave Pave out on course, 735 reaction for him, and the other yellow C5 Corvette. This is also a convertible Corvette. H-Stock leaders now out on course is Greg Reno and Joseph Austin. Greg leaving the line to the 566 reaction to Joseph's 732. And off the start here, Adam Deffenbaugh with a 448 red light on the Mazda 3. Malcolm Lawson right next to him with a 763. And leaders in H-Stock, easily Greg Reno on the left. 46.296, 6/10 of a second improvement for Reno. That'll put his lead to a comfortable 1.0 over co-driver Eduardo Leroy Bainey. She's the second driver, about 15 minutes away. Joe Austin, meanwhile, 47.873. No help for him, slowed down by about 2/10 of a second. Out on course, George Chong and Matt Dunn. They're driving that road tire class as well, in the stock S2000 stock WRX. To the finish line, Malcolm Lawson, 48.452, picks up half a second, moves Malcolm into 5th place in the H-Stock. Deffenbaugh, red light 4:48 in that Mazda 3. On the solo run, that was Stephen Hoy leaving the lights. That was a 5:02. Nicely done for Stephen. Let's see if he can go ahead and see that off the start. You do get a chance to see your reaction time when you leave the start lights here. Hopefully he can turn this run into some gold at that 5:02 reaction time. Matt Dunn, a 47.126, picks up 0.4 of a second. He is now just over a tenth behind Funk for that third trophy spot. George Chong, meanwhile, a 48.7, and it's +1. Savini and Kozlak out on course. Savini with a 6:01 reaction, but Kozlak a 5:02. That's the second 5:02 in a row. That's how to do it. Pulled a 5:02 of his own. Stephen Hoy, 2.1 second improvement for Stephen. Very nicely done, and that'll move him into third place, just ahead of Ambrose Fung in the RT class. So now we've got Eckert, Keeley, Hoy, and Fung, the top four in the RT. Back to A-Stop, Kozlak with that 5:02 reaction. Can he make use of it? He does make use of it, a 43.544. That's a 61,000th of a second improvement for Paul. But Anthony, geez, 43.340. That's a 1.6 second improvement. And Samini on top by 0.4 of a second now ahead of Kozlak, Paul, and Lynn. So a little bit of swapping going on here in the leaders of A-Stop. We still got Lynn to run in about 15 or so, co-driving with Paul. And I wouldn't put it past her to get past Tony for that top spot. Wiggy Grecian and Lane Borg now through 44.9. Wiggy picks up 0.4 of a second. And Lane Borg, 44.8. He finds some time, and he is up into 5th place. Wiggy at a 5:77. Lane with a 7:07. Dave Pate, meanwhile, next to finish, working a 5:92 starts. His time is a 47.903. Next in will be Joseph Austin and Greg Reno, a pair of 5 reaction times for them, a 5:86 for Joseph and a 5:91 for Greg. They'll be next into your camera screen. Again, from what I understand, lunch is still being served. Go see the white trailer. That is owned by Shortstop Burgers all the way from Colorado Springs, Colorado. Some of the nicest guys you'll meet when you place your order. They've got burgers, hot dogs, brats, and Philly cheesesteaks are being served as well. Go and get one. They're not bad. I will vouch for it. Greg Reno now through 46.454. Joseph Austin, 46.670, but it's +1. And Reno now up to a 1.4 second improvement. So apparently he found 4 more tenths of a second when I wasn't looking. And he's got a good stranglehold on the class. Co-driver Barbara Road, Amy sitting in second spot. We'll see here in about 10. Adam Deffenbaugh, Malcolm Lawson next through the Mazda 3 and the Mini Cooper. Adam is in with a 52.8. No help for him. Malcolm Lawson does find some time, 48.265. That's about a half a second. Stop. Back to RT, Matt Don and George Chong. That is George over the right-hand side. We're going to have to wait till Matt. What must have happened out on course? I didn't quite catch it. So we've got Matt Don through the 63.4, not quite sure what happened. George Chong, meanwhile, 49.8, no help for him, slowed down by 1.4. His reaction time was a 1.0, so really that was a kind of a throwaway run. Stephen Hoy, another fantastic start. He turns a 5:09 reaction time into another 0.2 of a second improvement. I believe that's going to move Hoy up. It does move up, Stephen. He's up at the second place. 2.5 of a second behind Eckert. Eckert is pretty much done, so he's going to sit back and watch Stephen. Hopefully, we'll see if Stephen can find that 2.5 on his last run on the right-hand side, but a 45.6 for Stephen on a blazing 5:09 reaction time. Stephen had a 5:02 on the right side and then a 5:09 on the left. He's got it figured out, and he's making use of it, climbing up the ladder, kind of creeping up on Michael Eckert. Now down by about a 1/4 of a second. This is Paul Kozlak and Anthony Savini. Paul picks up about 0.3 of a second, 43.4. And Savini, he picks up a little bit himself, 66,000 of an improvement for Tony, 43.389. So the gap closes to less than 0.3 for Savini and Kozlak. .260 to be exact. Looks like Savini left a little bit of time on the tree with that 7:33 reaction time. Paul with 6:15. This is Lane Borg and Wiggy Grecian. Oh my gosh, they're picking up a second. Wiggy Grecian picks up 1.2 with a 44.8, and then Lane picks up a second with a 43.8. So Lane Borg up to third place, pushing Lynn down to fourth and out of the trophies. I'm sure Lynn's not happy about that, but don't worry, Lynn, you got your 4 runs coming up in about 10 minutes. Dave Pate next through. He's in the convertible C5 Corvette, 46.342, picks up a full second as well. Wow, these A-Stock guys finding all kinds of time. They sure wish, or B-Stock sure wishes they were like the A-Stock guys. Everybody here finding all kinds of gobs of time, 46.3 for Pate, and that'll keep him in 8th place in the A-Stock. Back to H-Stock. Joseph Austin, Greg Reno. Greg on the left, we back first. 46.001 finds 3 more tenths of a second. Joe Austin would have found 2 tenths, but he tagged a cone at 47.4 plus 1, no help for Joe. So Reno, let's see what your tally is up to now. It's a 1.7 when we do all the math. Cushion over your co-driver. I guess you weren't comfortable with Barbara getting that close to you. He said in the most harmless way. Adam Duffenbaugh, Malcolm Austin. Malcolm with a 48.7, no help. 9. And he loses about half a second. No improvement for either driver in the H-Stock. Back to RT. Matt Dunn and George Chung. Doing the solo run, Stephen Oy. Stephen finding all kinds of time. Another quick 5:68 reaction time as Stephen is chasing down that top spot in RT. Matt Dunn, 46.497, picks up 6 tenths of a second. Nicely done. Ooh, and Matt Dunn gets ahead of Stephen Hoy. I don't think Stephen knows that. George Chong, a 49.256. But with that run, Matt Dunn splits Eckert and Hoy. We'll see what Hoy can do. He is the next finisher. Stephen, no help, 45.647. So when he wasn't looking, Matt Dunn creeped in front of him. Looks like that D-Stock Pats is kind of helping out these RT guys, especially when you're all-wheel drive like these 012 WRXs. Stephen Hoy is still putting down some good runs in the 45-second range in a stock car with street tires. Kozlak and Savini, each of them finding 2 tenths. Paul Kozlak finding .228 with a 43.316. Savini finding .188 with a 43.152, and it's just that close. 2 tenths of a second now separates Savini from Kozlak. Savini still getting the better of Paul on his last run. Grecian and Lane Borg next to the finish. Lane on the right, red light, 3:59. 43.823 for Lane. Would have been a 1 second improvement, but man, that was an early launch. Wiggy Grecian, 45.339, and Wiggy's taking 6th spot just ahead of car owner Paul Brown. We'll see Paul in about 10 minutes or so. Oh my gosh, we've got a lot of workers that are just have not even thought about checking in yet. If you got that list, I'll be happy to go over it for you. Dave Pate, meanwhile, 46.528 and a 5:75 reaction time, but shift B workers, if you haven't checked in, I'm missing 10 of you, and we're getting ready to do a swap. We are doing hot swaps, by the way, and 10 of you have not checked in yet. Meanwhile, back to H-Stock. Leaders, Greg Reno, red light, 420. It's not going to help his cause. Joe Austin, meanwhile, is going to be a +2. Looks like Greg went ahead and he's just kind of tripsing through the course. He knows he red lit. He's going to save some tire. We'll see if Joe can make an improvement. Greg Reno comfortably 1.7 on the class. And Greg, 62 and change. Joe, 47.3 +2. Would have been an improvement by about 3 tenths of a second, but 2 cones proves costly. Malcolm Lawson and Adam Duffenbaugh will be next through. This is Duffenbaugh on the right, Mazda 3, a 48.0. Slowed down by about a tenth, and Malcolm picks up half a second, 48.1 for Malcolm, sitting in 5th place in the H-Stock. Back to RT, the road tire, the stock cars on the street tires. This is Matt Dunn. Matt really trying to work his way into the lead now. He got in front of Stephen Roy on that last run, which left him about a tenth of a second behind Eckert. So I'm sure Michael Eckert, his co-driver, is watching. He finds it. Matt Dunn, a 46.797. Oh, the raw time was there, but he picks up a cone. It's +1 for Matt. Would have been enough for the lead, but he is back down to second spot. Eckert breathes a sigh of relief. He'll come down to Sunday runs. So it looks like that'll do it for the first couple of groups of drivers. I'm going to go ahead and hand over the microphone to Eric Hyman, all the way from Northwest region. I do want to make one more call for course workers. 10 of you have not checked in. Please do so. Good afternoon again. This is Eric Hyman from Northwest Region. I'm going to be bringing you all the Shift B action, but before I can bring... Test, test, test. This is Eric Hyman from Northwest Region. I'll be bringing you all the Shift B action, but before I can bring you any of the action, we need workers. Workers, workers, workers. There are junior carts at the line, which means you are officially late and in jeopardy of having your runs DSQ'd. At the line, class leader Kevin Teague and